I2AI Experience. Good afternoon, good evening. This is the international track, and we will have today a very important guest. Okay, first of all, let me say that, sorry, it's not going in the presentation mode. I don't know why. Well, as I said, this presentation is only possible because we have very important sponsors: AWS, Liga, RocketMath, EducaCross, and I2AI. I2AI is an association, yes, international association of artificial intelligence. And the idea is to really connect the ecosystems around artificial intelligence, yes, bringing partners together, spreading knowledge, and generating business and growth to individuals, companies, and the society, yes. And this only is possible because we connect an ecosystems of professional business, companies, governments, institutions like universities and schools, funds and investors, technology companies, and startups, yes. And don't feel that you are behind. If you are really eating the dust and feeling like a dog, like in this picture here, you can change this situation, yes. And we are inviting you to really become a member of I2AI in the i2ai.org to really understand how AI can help you to really deal with this digital transformation. Okay, and we can offer you business education, yes, and be prepared and ready to the fourth industrial revolution, yes, and how you apply AI, how you apply data science in your business and also for your career. And the way that I2AI help is really providing some skills and ability, and that can be in introductory courses, from data science courses, or AI applied for businesses, AI para negócios acá, and also talking about the technologies that support the current AI in the market, yes, and I2AI provide certificates for this kind of courses. You are taking part, this session here is part of the I2AI Experience, where we have other kinds of lectures and interviews, and also the workshops during the night, yes. I'm sure you really are enjoying and taking part of this experience, yes. And a special invite is because at the end of this session, during the evening here in Brazil, we have some new workshops, yes, 6 different workshops, and the workshops are part of a very interesting track with notable members from I2AI that really explain in more details about technology, about the strategy, about career, and you are invited. If you take part of the workshops, you can see also the previous workshops for all the week, yes. And well, now let me invite our guest, Gianluca Mauro, and establish a connection here from Toronto, because I'm right now in Toronto, Canada. And let me first of all say who is Gianluca? Yes, Gianluca Mauro is the author of the Zero to AI book, yes, and founder of the AI Academy, a company specialized in training and strategic consulting on artificial intelligence. Gianluca has taught AI to thousands of people, from students to executives of large multinational companies. He lives in Copenhagen, and in his spare time, he likes to play guitar, reads, and play sports. Well, Gianluca, it's your time, show time, please. The audience is all yours, okay?
Thank you so much, Alexandre, for inviting me, for the great introduction. It's really a pleasure for me to be able to talk to you guys about a little bit about my experience with artificial intelligence and what I found it's really important when you need to try to bring AI in your career and then in your organization. So what I'm going to do now is share my screen so you can see my slides as well. Let me just move this around. Here we go. So I wanted to introduce myself in the beginning, but Alexander did such a great job in introducing me, so I'm not gonna add anything more. I'm just gonna maybe introduce this guy here on my right, who is my co-founder, Nicolò, who is not talking today, but I wanted to give him a little bit of space since we built this company together. So let's get started immediately. So one of the problems of artificial intelligence today is that there's a lot of noise. A lot of people are talking about AI, and it's really hard to understand what is really happening in the world. So one thing that I like to do before I talk to an audience like this is just going on the internet and trying to look on Google, very simply looking for artificial intelligence in business and looking at what people are saying about AI. And this is what I found. So these are a bunch of news on what's going on in AI. And as you can see, people are saying AI is disrupting financial services, the future of fashion, how AI is changing the fashion, energy industry, AI is disrupting the energy industry. This is pretty fun. Artificial intelligence in healthcare, the future is amazing. So it seems like everyone is super excited about the potential of artificial intelligence. But I know that everything is not that easy. So in the meantime, I wanted to show you also this little funny thing that happened with AI in the industry. So this is a press release from IBM in 2013. They said that they were going to use artificial intelligence together with the MD Anderson Research Center in the United States to try to eradicate cancer using AI. Such a big goal, right? It seemed super exciting, and IBM was using this technology to finally cure this awful disease. Yet I found this quote from a doctor just a few years later who said that this product is a piece of, and I'm not gonna say the word, but you can imagine what word it is. We bought it for marketing, but basically it was useless. So it seems to me that there's some people that are really pushing AI and saying that AI is already changing the world, but then there's some other people who are actually trying to use AI but failing. And so the point is that AI is not magic. AI is a great technology, but it's not gonna save you just because it's a good technology. There's something else to it if you wanna be successful. So my goal today for this hour that we have together is trying to inspire you a little bit to think about what are the real ingredients that you need to succeed in AI. Because technology alone is not enough. You can have the best technology in the world. If you miss some crucial ingredients, you're just not gonna succeed. And what I wanna do today, in an hour, of course, I can't teach you everything, but I want to give you some inspiration to think about what are the things that you actually need to think about to succeed in your career and in your organization. So there is something that I like to call the AI hierarchy of needs. These are 3 different things that you need if you want to succeed in AI. It's a pyramid because at the bottom, there's the most important thing, which is your knowledge. You need to be able to understand what AI is. If you can't understand how AI works, just no way you're going to be able to build a successful company or a successful project or a successful career. On top of that, so once you have some knowledge, the second most important thing is how ready is your organization. Later on, we're going to see exactly what I mean by organization readiness. And then just finally, it depends on your projects. What actually are you trying to do with AI? What problems are you trying to solve? So now in the rest of my, let's say, lesson, let's call it a lesson, I'm going to look at each one of these 3 different blocks to give you again some inspiration to understand what you need to think about. And I'm gonna start, instead of from the bottom, I'm gonna start from the top of the pyramid. So I'm gonna start from AI projects. How can you make sure that you are building some AI project that is actually successful? And I'm gonna share also some personal experiences of stuff that I built for companies and why it worked or why it didn't work. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, you know? So first of all, what is an AI project? And I'm gonna use the definition that I wrote together with my co-founder Nicolò on our book, Zero to AI. In our book, we say that an AI project is a well-scoped initiative, a well-defined initiative that uses AI to build new products or features or to optimize existing processes. So the most important thing in this definition is that the goal of the AI project is some business goal. Here we are not talking about research. We are not talking about trying to build better algorithms, better neural networks, or write a research paper. We are talking about how to use this technology to reach some business goal. And so this is the most important thing. The most important element of any AI project is a worthy business goal. This is the key to even get started with an AI project. Without a clear business goal that is worthy, there's just no point in starting, okay? And here, it's one of the mistakes that I always see companies doing. A lot of companies get super excited about technology because they see that finally they can do all these amazing things using AI. Then they forget about the business goal. And so I like to tell them that a useless project with a great technology is still useless. Most important thing, the starting point of any AI project is a worthy business goal. So what is a worthy business goal? What is something that you should try to pursue? And I like to express what is an important business goal for an AI project with this diagram. You have on the left what artificial intelligence can do, and on the right, what your company needs. If you focus on the stuff in the blue on the left of this Venn diagram, you're basically just trying to do what I call tech stunts. So basically you're doing some technology, looks cool, looks nice, but it's not really useful, okay? The real value and your job in the organization is to find this, to find what's in the center, to find what is really needed in your organization, what can really bring value to your company or to your customers, and can be done with artificial intelligence, okay? This is the most important thing. It seems obvious, but you have no idea about how many times companies come to me with some idea for an AI project. We start investigating, and then we found out that simply that project shouldn't be built, okay? Because there's not enough business value. So now, once you have a clear business goal, so once this bottom part here, it's clear and it's well-defined, an AI project is made of different components. Let's see what are these components. The first one is data, because modern artificial intelligence is built on machine learning algorithms. And machine learning algorithms are different techniques to allow computers to learn from data. So no data, no machine learning, okay? So this is probably the most important thing that you need to think of once you have your business goal well defined. The second component of an AI project is the algorithms. So what is the technology? What is the machine learning algorithms? What are the neural networks? So all these different tools that you can use that you're going to apply on the data in order to make the prediction or to try to forecast the future, depending on what you want to do. What is the technology you're going to use? And the last part, which actually it's something that people a lot of time forget, but it's super important, is the output. What is the channel that I'm going to use to communicate with my customers and to create value? So now I want to give you a little bit of ideas about each one of these three blocks and tell you a little bit also of examples of how I, with different companies, tried to solve all these different parts of the area of an AI project, okay? And let's start from the last one. Let's start from the output, from the channel. What does it mean? What is the channel of an AI project? So again, you have your data, you have your machine learning algorithm, and then at some point, someone needs to use your technology, right? Can be a person who uses a new product, could be a car, if you're building maybe a self-driving car, something like this, or could be some industrial facility if you work, let's say, in industry 4.0, this kind of stuff, okay? So you have different ways to reach these people. These different ways are what I call the channel, which is the way that you use to make your technology bring value to your users. And I'm going to give you a few examples of different channels, and I'm going to tell you for each one of these examples, one personal experience, one personal project that I built. So the most simple channel to deliver AI to users is what I call the static report. The static report is when an AI algorithm is producing some insight, is producing some new knowledge, some maybe new strategy, or some kind of number, some kind of insight that can inform your strategy that you use once, and that's going to define your strategy from that moment on. And I'm going to give you an example. I was working for a big consumer goods company in Italy. They make diapers, and they sell around 1.3 billion euros worth of diapers per year. It's a lot of diapers. It's a very big company. And so these people had a lot of data from each supermarket that was selling their diapers. Okay? They sell their diapers in around 50,000 shops. Okay? And so what they wanted to know was which shops are overperforming, which ones are underperforming, and how they should allocate their budget. So maybe they need to advertise more in some shops, maybe they need to reduce the price in some other shops, etc., etc. So what we've done is we took all this data, all the data from the shops, some data from the demographics about Italy, we took some other data about the different shops, how big they were, how many people work there, how many square meters was the shop, etc., etc. We put it in an AI algorithm, and the AI algorithm produced a list of different supermarkets that needed to have a little bit more discount or a little bit more advertising. They needed some more attention, let's say. So this was a static report because the company got all this output from the AI algorithm, they applied it, and that's it. And now they're using it and they're seeing already some profit thanks to this AI application. But this is, again, the simplest way of delivering your AI to users, just a static report. A little bit more complex is email updates. I'm going to give you an example of this. Always the same company, actually, was they were producing their own energy using a big engine that was producing energy that was powering their factory to build these diapers. And they wanted to know, since every time that the engine broke, they will lose so much money, they wanted to have something that could basically give them an alert before the engine was breaking. Okay? So we built an AI algorithm that looked at the data from the engine and sent an email whenever the AI algorithm predicted that the engine was about to break. So that people in their facilities could know, hey, the AI algorithm told me that this engine is about to break, so I can go there and try to do some maintenance, try maybe to reduce the power, try to do something to prevent the engine from breaking. And this was, again, an AI algorithm that communicated its predictions through simple emails. Another channel that you can use is autonomous decision making. This is when an AI is taking decisions without you knowing about it. And the easiest example is with self-driving cars. The car is just moving around the street and it's taking decisions autonomously, when to turn right, when to turn left. You have nothing to do. You just sit in the back and relax. Okay? So this is another example, and of course, it's much more complicated than static reports or email updates. Another case of different channel that you can use, it's what I call the behind the scenes feature. And here I want to tell you the example of an entrepreneur from Italy. His name is Marco Trombetti, and his company is called Translated. They make professional translations for big companies like Boeing, the company that makes airplanes. They translated the manual of their airplanes using Marco's company. And I interviewed Marco and I asked him, what do you think is the biggest value that AI gives to your company? And he told me, look, when someone sends me a document that I need to translate, I use AI to translate around, between Italian and English, around 73% of it. Then I have a professional translator that makes the translation perfect. And he called it the magic AI, because his customers didn't necessarily know that there was an AI that was making 73% of the job. They didn't know it. It was something happening behind the scenes that allowed Marco's company to be super fast in making translations, because 73% was done by an AI, and its customers were super happy because they were getting this translation super fast. But AI was not advertised as a core feature of their product. It was something that was helping translators behind the scenes. Now, last channel that you can use for your AI project is a user-facing application. This is when you know that you're using AI. You're telling your customers, hey, this is an AI product. This is what you're using. There's AI behind the scenes that is helping you. And an example is a project that I built together with my co-founder, Nicolò. We called it TranscribeBot. It was an AI that could transcribe your voice messages, basically. So whenever you had, let's say, a meeting and you recorded the meeting, or you had any kind of recording, really, you could just upload your audio file and AI will transcribe it, and then send it back to you, the translation. And we advertise it. We said this is AI-based transcription. So it was really clear for users. They knew that they were interacting with an AI. And this was, again, a user-facing application. Now, I hope you understand that choosing the right channel, it's key to have a successful AI product. And let's see why. Well, the first reason is because based on the channel, of course, your users are going to get a different value. They're going to interact with your product in a different way. But it's also key because the complexity of these products is very different. The static report is pretty easy to build. The email updates are a little bit more complicated. And finally, the behind-the-scenes feature, the user-facing application, and the autonomous decision-making is the most complex one to build. They are the most complex ones to build. This means that your company, based on the skills you have, maybe you have 10 data scientists, maybe you have 1, maybe 0, based on the time you have to test the product on the market, maybe you want to be fast, maybe you want to take a little bit more time. Based on all these things, your channel can be super complex and make your life awful, or maybe it can be super easy and it's going to enable you to build a project immediately, okay? And with much less time, much less investment, and much less risk as well. So now we talked about the channel, which is the last part of an AI project. Let's make a step back and let's look at the actual technology. How do you build the algorithms that are necessary for an AI project? How do you do this? And I want to give you 3 different strategies. Of course, here I'm assuming that you are maybe not data scientists, you're not interested in knowing exactly how to program these algorithms. I want to give you some business strategies to build these AI algorithms. So the first strategy, the easiest one, I call it the buy strategy. It's not an I call it, a lot of people call it the buy strategy, okay? I didn't invent this. What does it mean? It means that there are a lot of tech providers. One example is AWS, actually, which is the sponsor of this event, that sell to every company their AI technology. So you can pay a few cents just to get their technology and use it for your business. And I want to give you an example of what this means. So this is an example actually from the Google Cloud, but AWS has the same, IBM has the same, Microsoft does the same. So you can choose the provider that you feel more comfortable with. This was just to give you an idea of what you can do. But basically what I did, I just uploaded a picture of me, and the AI, in this case from Google Cloud, was able to, first of all, identify my emotion. In this case, I was smiling, so it said that I'm very likely to be joyful. I'm definitely not sad or angry or surprised. It was able also to identify landmarks in my face, where my nose is, where my lips are, where my glasses are, etc., etc. And here on top, you can see that there are a lot of different things that you can try and you can get. For instance, it can tell you that there is a red t-shirt, there are some black pants, there's a watch, there are some glasses, etc., etc. The beautiful things about this strategy, the buy strategy, is that you don't need to build your own algorithms. You can use the ones that some other company like AWS, like Amazon have built for you. And this is pretty great, especially if you're just starting out, if your company doesn't have an army of data scientists. This technology can allow you to get started even if you don't have the right skills. But even if you have the right skills, it's so fast to implement this technology that you can use it right away. And I want to give you an example of this. I want to tell you a personal story. I was working with a pharmaceutical company. This was around 3 years ago. And we had this meeting. We thought about building an app where a patient could take a selfie, and based on the emotion of the selfie, so if the patient was smiling or was sad, the app will give maybe some encouragement to the patient or say different things. And I remember we had the meeting at 9 a.m. And the business manager said, awesome, I like this project, let's build it. I want to call some web agency or some AI company to try to build this technology. And I told her, wait a minute, I want to build a prototype and see if our users like it. Can you wait until 3 p.m.? And she was like, what? It's like 9 or 10. What can you do in 5 hours? And I actually went back to my room. I bought one of these technologies from AWS. I integrated it really quick on a website that looked a little bit like an app. And at 3 p.m., we could try it already. We could already see if it worked. We could give it to users and ask them if they liked it. It was super fast. So one of the big advantages of this strategy is that it allows you to build technology and to test applications extremely fast. Now, the second strategy is what I call the borrow strategy. What does it mean? So any project, as I showed you before, has data, algorithms, and infrastructure. With the buy strategy, you bought basically everything, okay? Because you're paying to get the whole thing. You can, though, just get some pieces of this and then build everything else that you need. An example is when you want to build an AI model and you don't have data. Maybe you didn't collect data already. What you can do is go online and try to start your project using open source data. And again, I want to give you an example of a personal experience that I had. I was working with a company who wanted to build a software. It was for call centers. They could analyze the voice of a client and understand the emotion of this client. And so AWS, Google, IBM, they didn't sell anything like this. I don't know if they do it now, but at the time, this was a couple of years ago, there was nothing like this. And this startup that was working with us, they didn't have data yet. So what we did was going online, we found some open source data set. It was a data set about some German actors. They were saying the same sentence with different emotions. And we took this data and we built the first algorithm using data that we basically got for free. So now I actually put some of these samples that you can hear how this data sounds like. So I'm gonna play 4 different samples for you, okay? So hear this out.
Das will sie am Mittwoch abgeben.
I hope you can hear, this was the sad voice.
Das will sie am Mittwoch abgeben.
This was the neutral voice. By the way, I have no idea what they're saying. This is German.
Das will sie am Mittwoch abgeben.
This was the happy voice.
Das will sie am Mittwoch abgeben.
And this was the angry voice. So since we had these data, we were able to start immediately to build at least a prototype of the technology we wanted to build. And this was really great because it allowed us to be much faster and save lots of money and lots of time. Now, the first strategy was the buy, you buy everything. Second one is the borrow, you take something and then you build your algorithm on top or your infrastructure on top. The third and last strategy is the build. In the build strategy, you're alone, basically. You need to build everything by yourself. And sometimes it's the only way, because maybe you're using your own data. It's such a niche application that you need to build everything yourself. And this is an example. You remember when I was talking about the static report and I told you that I worked with this big consumer goods company that wanted to use their sales data to optimize their marketing strategy. Well, this is the only strategy we could use because it was their data, it was their own. It was such a specific application, it was their own marketing strategy. It was impossible to find, AWS or Google or IBM selling it, and it was impossible to find some open source algorithm that we could use. We had to build everything ourselves. And in this case, there are different kind of professional figures that can help you. There's, for instance, the software engineer, who is someone who is very skilled at software, a little bit less skilled in machine learning and advanced mathematics. There's the machine learning engineer, who usually is a little bit worse at software than the software engineer, but better at machine learning and mathematics. And then usually there's the researcher, who's the most, let's say, scientifically skilled of the bunch. This was just to give you an idea of how, if you need to build an AI project, usually you need a team that has different skills, different capabilities based on the project you want to build. If your project is very complex from the technology point of view, maybe you need to build a self-driving car, for instance. Well, then you need maybe a researcher because you need someone that can really find new algorithms that are super performing, okay? Maybe you need to use some simple technology, but you have, let's say, 1 billion users, okay? You have an app that has a lot of people that use it. In this case, the software engineering challenges are going to be much more difficult to solve. Therefore, you're going to need a software engineer or more software engineers. So what I want to tell you here is that with the build strategy, you also need to be able to make your team with the right people that can bring the right skills based on the specific challenges of your project. Okay? So now, we looked at the different channels that you can use to deliver value to your users. We looked at the 3 different strategies to build technology. So build, buy, borrow. Now, assuming that you have a good AI project, so you have a good business goal, a good strategy for your channel, and a good strategy to build your project, is your company ready? What is the next step? Is your company going to be able to put everything together and actually build something successful? So we're looking at the second step of the pyramid, okay? And now, I have a question for you. What does company culture mean in technology? In other words, if you take a traditional company, like a normal supermarket, and you give it a website, does it become Amazon? Well, think about, I don't know, any supermarket you have in Brazil. Imagine if that supermarket starts selling everything on a website. Is it like Amazon? Well, Amazon sells stuff online. That supermarket starts to sell stuff online. They look the same, but we know they are different. There's something more to internet companies than just having a website, okay? There's some culture that is different, some elements of the company, some ways of working that make internet companies fundamentally different from traditional companies. The same thing works with AI. An AI company is not a traditional company with some fancy algorithms. It just doesn't work. There are all the things that make AI companies real AI companies. So it's a very long topic to try to list everything and go deep into each one of these aspects. But I just want to list a little bit of these ones to give you an idea of how you need to think. Again, my goal here is to inspire you to start learning more and start thinking differently about how to bring AI in your business and in your career. So these are a few of the things that a company needs to have to be a real AI company. And I'm just gonna quickly peek into some of these ones. No data silos. What does it mean? Real AI companies are very fast sharing of data within the company. It happens very often that a company has some data, but maybe is owned by the marketing department and IT struggles to get access to it, or maybe finance owns some other data set and it's really hard to put everything together. AI companies don't have this. In AI companies, it's very easy to share data. This was one example. Another one, strategic data acquisition. Traditional companies usually gather data just, I don't know, because they think that maybe one day it's going to be useful. AI companies, on the other hand, they gather data strategically. They know what data they're going to need now and in the future to build AI products. And they build a strategy to get this data. Okay? Something else, let's pick experimentation culture. So AI, we don't have to forget this. AI is a new technology. It's really hard that you build something and it works right away. Most of the times you need to do experiments. You need to try. You build a prototype, you find out that it doesn't work, you go back to the drawing board, change something, change your strategy, change algorithm, change channel, change product maybe, and then you try again. If you don't have this experimentation culture, it's gonna be really hard for you to build successful AI projects. And I wanna give you now a little bit of an example of, always from my personal experience, I'm trying to give you as many examples from my real work life as I can, so that you don't get stuff that you can find on the internet, okay? And this example is about a real project I built for a company. Without talking about what the project was, but to give you an idea, we built a prototype in 2 months. It was really quick. But then it took them 2 years to actually use this model. Why? Because, well, they didn't have a clear view of what channel to use. The channel that they wanted to use, it was really hard to find for them who was going to actually build that integration. Was it going to be IT? Was it going to be the data science department? Was it going to be a global project? Was it going to be a country project? It was really complicated to do this. There were legal issues as well that were not easy to solve. The legal team was not ready to talk about all these data privacy regulations that are very specific to AI applications. It was just so hard. And so it took them months just to understand if they could do it or not. Anyway, without getting more into the details, you get an idea how if your company doesn't have all these elements, if it's not ready, it can take even 2 years to deploy a project that I built in 2 months. So being ready from an organizational point of view, it's paramount to success. So again, an AI project depends on a company's existing infrastructure, governance, and legal structures. So all these things are crucial for the success of any project. Now, let's look at the last, but the most important part of that can bring you success in your career and can bring you to successful AI project, which is your knowledge. You need to know, you need to understand AI to be able to find these little gems, these very useful AI projects that you can build. And now I want to tell you what exactly you need to understand. Do you need to be a data scientist? I don't think so. I'm going to show you what I think it's important for you to understand and know. So this is a slide that I had in the beginning, okay? You remember I told you that you need to have, you need to find projects that are in the middle between what AI can do and what your company needs, okay? Because if you find stuff that is just tech, like it's useful, it's just useless, okay? And if you can't find something that can actually be done with AI, probably your project is not going to work. So now the question is, who is the person that can find these projects? So if you need to be here between what AI can do and what your company needs, you need to be basically here. You need to be someone who has both an understanding of AI and some domain knowledge. Do you work in marketing? Perfect. Marketing is your domain knowledge. You need to understand AI as well to find the right projects. Do you need to work in, do you work in engineering? Perfect. Engineering is your domain knowledge. You need to understand AI to find projects in the middle. Do you work in healthcare? Do you work in the energy sector? Do you work in consulting? You understand what I'm trying to say. To get a strong career in the AI era, the kind of knowledge you need to have is a strong domain knowledge together with understanding of AI. Data scientists have just this part. You need to have both. And by the way, here I wrote dinosaurs because Mark Cuban, as a famous American entrepreneur, said that if you don't study AI, you're going to become a dinosaur in the next 5 years. So I didn't say that. Mark said that, okay? Anyway, now, once we said this, so that you need to have some domain knowledge together with some AI understanding, let's look at exactly what are the skills that you need to have as a leader in the AI era. So the first thing that you need to have is that you need to be able to identify strong use cases. Again, I may sound boring because I said it 50 times in the last hour, but being able to find the right use cases is the single most important thing for the success of any AI career or any AI project. I've seen it over and over in my life. If you find the right use cases, you're going to win. But how do you find the right use cases? What you need to have is an operational understanding of AI. What does operational understanding mean? It means that you don't need to understand exactly how a neural network works, unless, of course, you're a data scientist. If you're a data scientist, you definitely do. But if you're a business person, if you're maybe a manager in a healthcare company or in an energy company, maybe you're a consultant, you don't need to understand the details of a neural network. Again, if you're a data scientist, yes, you have to. But if you are not a data scientist, you need to just understand operationally from a high level how different technology, different data can impact your business. If you have this understanding, then it's going to be almost natural for you to find the different technologies that can give value to your business, can solve real business problems. Okay? Now, once you have this operational understanding, you're going to be able to find great use cases. But there's something else that you need to be able to do. You need to be able to be basically a good translator between business needs and tech requirements. Why? I see a lot of people that have good ideas for artificial intelligence projects, but they lack the vocabulary to speak with data scientists, to communicate what they want to build. And that's a mess. It's a real problem because they can't even explain what they want to do because they lack the right words. They lack the real understanding of AI. And I'm going to give you an example, okay? So this is a bad definition of an AI project. This is from someone who doesn't understand AI. Someone who says, we're going to use AI to maximize user engagement. It's not that good. A little bit better would be, we'll use AI to recommend content to users. A little bit more clear, but it's still vague. a really good definition would be something like this. We're going to use data from user ratings and interactions with the platform to build a recommender system to suggest content to users. We'll measure the effects on retention. You see that someone who's able to write in this way, someone who is able to express the project that they want to build with a sentence like this, it's someone who has a super clear and well-defined idea for how technology is going to solve his or her problems. And someone that comes with this briefing to a data scientist is going to get all the love in the world. As a data scientist, I would love to have someone that tells me that this is what they want to build. So imagine if you're a manager, if you're a consultant, if you're an executive, the CEO of a company or whatever, if you understand AI well enough to be able to express yourself this clearly, then there's really nothing that can stop you, because you know what are the challenges that you need to solve, because you have this business understanding. You're able to understand how AI can help you, and you're able to communicate to people. That's everything you need really to have a successful career in AI and build and super valuable AI projects. Okay? Now, the last two things that you need to care about is how to define a valid strategy. This is, again, something that comes in the end of everything that I just said. Because you may have valid ideas for AI projects, you may be able to express them, but AI, it's a long-term game. You can't think about just building one project and then that's it. AI is a transformational technology, so a very good AI leader is someone who is able also to see forward, to have a clear vision, a clear strategy for how you're going to make the first step with AI, but also how you're going to do a 200 years long journey to transform your company in an AI company, so they can take advantage of everything AI can give you. Okay? So with that, I kind of closed what I wanted to tell you. We've seen from a very high level a lot of different things. We saw that you need 3 things to be good at AI. I'm going to put back the slide with the triangles. We saw that you need good projects that are solid, projects that have strong business value and have the different components that I told you. So they have the good channel, good technology, whether you buy, build, or borrow, and the right data. Then we saw that it's important that your organization is ready, so that your organization has the right framing, the right legal framework, data sharing practices, data governance, etc. in place. But then we also saw that the most important thing, really the basis of any successful career in AI and any successful AI company, is having the right knowledge. If you don't understand AI well enough, you can't even start. You know, you lost even before starting. So that's why I think that investing in your AI education is the foundation for a successful career in artificial intelligence. Now, before I close, I wanted to tell you that I've talked to Thiago from I2AI, and I thought about how I can actually help you. And I'm very happy to give you some special discounts just for the audience of I2AI. That are just for you. I really made them just for you guys. The first thing is 70% off on the AI Academy School. So 70% off of each of my online courses, where I go much deeper into detail of everything that I just shared here. This discount is valid until Sunday, and you need to go to this link that I think someone has shared also in the YouTube description. But you can take a screenshot now or write it down. And again, until Sunday, there's 70% off on every course. So again, this is for my online courses. I also talked to my publisher, because I know that Alexandre said that he made a great review for my book. So I know you like my book. I also know that my publisher has some pretty high prices for Brazil. So I asked them, hey, can you lower the price for these guys? And this is what I managed to get from them. So this 35% off using this discount code that you can just write down now or read it in the description on the YouTube video, to get 35% off from Zero to AI. This is what I was able to get from my publisher to help you guys get some more knowledge about AI. So with that, I close my speech, and I'm super happy if there are questions to keep talking to you. Here you have my email address for anything you want to write me, any question you have. Actually, the email address, now that I see it, it's wrong because there's AI-Academy, not AI.Academy. I'm gonna fix it right now. Here you go. I don't know why it still doesn't change. Okay, cool. So now you can read the correct one. And this is my LinkedIn. It was a pleasure. I hope this was helpful. I hope you liked my lesson. I hope you got some inspiration to think a little bit differently about what you need to succeed in AI, not just technology, everything else, everything that is behind the scenes that you need. And again, for any question, I'm here. So thank you.
Thank you, Gianluca. It was a great lecture, really, really inspiring. And before I let you know the questions, I really want to make a comment. Yes, when I read your book, I think it was 2 or 3 months ago, I really become impressive because I like to read lots of books around AI, and your book was a simple book that really address business and people that are not the technology guys. Yes, addressing people from the line of business areas. Yes, and really to try to help them to understand what is AI and how you built an AI project. And this was part of your lecture today. And the way that you explain some very important concepts about AI using really business problems, yes, use cases, and was great. I really recommend, and was great for everybody to read. Zero to AI, yes.
Thank you. It was really hard to write this. It took us a year and a half almost, because we wrote it basically 3 times, because we wrote it, then we asked for feedback, we got feedback, we wrote it again, asked for feedback again, wrote it again. It was really hard to find this good balance. I think that's the most important thing, finding a balance between not saying too much, otherwise people don't understand and get frustrated, but also not saying too little, otherwise people just they can't use it in their work. So I'm super happy you liked it. Really, thank you for your great review. And yeah, I hope that more people can read it.
Yes, for sure. With this discount from probably in Brazil will help to more people enjoy the book. Yes.
I don't decide the price, the publisher does. I think it's too expensive, honestly. It's expensive also in Italy. I mean,
yes. But sometimes knowledge is not so expensive than you think, because this is an investment. Yes, and for sure you inspire us to invest in knowledge. Yes, this is great. Let me ask you some questions here from the audience here. Yes, the first question: what are the most challenging step to start this career change? Yes, and to really embrace AI.
That's a very good question. So the people I helped a lot of people doing this kind of career switch, and what I see is that the most difficult thing is to bring other people with you. You can't, do this journey alone. In your company, you need people that can, support you, can maybe give you budget, maybe give you, support you in doing projects and all these things. What I found that works is trying to find some small little project, something easy that maybe you can do using a buy strategy, for instance. Something very small and quick that you can build in maybe a few weeks. Then once you do it, show it to everyone in your company, because you need people around you to see that AI is possible. A lot of people are afraid that they cannot do it. This is too hard for me. We are not Google, we are not Amazon, we cannot do it. It's not true. You can. So show them that you can do it by building maybe some simple projects. And then once you're able to build something, bring as many people as you can with you. It's a little bit like a virus. Now with Corona, it's a good metaphor. You need to start infecting a few people with the idea that AI is possible, and then this is going to start spreading. But that's the most challenging thing, is making the first step. That's if in your company there's not already people that are working with AI. If you already have people that are working with AI, well, you're starting from a much easier position. You just need to start investing in your education. So learning more about how AI works, more about the concepts that we just talked about. And once you have this clear strategy, this clear knowledge, then you can, start applying it and start showing your value within the company.
Okay, great. Yes. As you explained, and we know that the current AI is based off data, yes, and for sure companies need to transform the traditional company to transform themselves in digital companies, yes, or at least to collect data, yes. One of the next question is around this. Why, in your opinion, it is so difficult for big corporations to focus on their own digital transformation?
Well, because it takes a shift in mindset. It takes so a lot of times that I worked with big companies, there's always two kinds of people. There's the people that are super excited, they want to change. And then there's the people that say, hey, but I've been working in a different way for 20 years. Why do I have to change? I know what works. I don't know if this new way is going to work. And so it's a lot about trying to find the balance between these two kind of people, and trying to make the second one a little bit more feel a little bit more trust that if they invest their energy, if they invest their money in new technology, that's actually going to benefit them. They're not going to get out of job, or they're not going to suddenly, not get results anymore. So again, I think that's the most important problem. It's about the mindset. You're trying to change people that did their job in a specific way for 20 years, maybe. I mean, that's human nature. We are scared of change. So you need to make this change as easy and as smooth and as encouraging as possible. Okay. And that's not easy. So that's why I think it's really important.
Okay. Well, another question here. Francisco Melon. I am a business analyst, and my goal is exactly to have operational understanding in AI. What are the steps to have this operational understanding?
Okay, so if you asked me this question 2 years ago, I would have told you to start learning how to code, because that's traditionally how people did. They just started coding, started getting some machine learning experience, and then they stopped coding and started working on the business aspect. Today, I don't think it's necessary anymore to get that very deep technical knowledge. I will recommend you to start with some courses about AI, but for business people. And I mean, of course, I built Minds because I thought that there was a gap in the market, but there are many others that you can find. Once you build that kind of knowledge, then I think it's super important to try to get some experience as fast as possible. And you can do that within your own company, trying to find, again, as I said before, these low-hanging fruits. So these simple projects you can build using maybe some of these buy strategies, maybe using some data that you already have, maybe using some simple channels. Try to get experience as fast as possible. But again, the first part is build your AI knowledge. And there are lots of courses now around. I mean, of course, I recommend Minds because, I mean, I made them because I think they're good. But there's a lot of stuff around as well. But I don't think it's unnecessary anymore to learn how to code. That was probably 3 years ago, 2 years ago.
Okay. Then last question. Obviously, then, in your opinion, do you think that business people are the ones that will drive this AI transformation inside companies?
I think so. I think so because technical people, they they don't have the view of what are the real challenges that need to be solved. Okay, so AI, it's going to be pushed forward by the value that it brings to people, and the business people are the people that know where this value is.
Yeah.
And technology, on the other hand, is always becoming more and more a commodity. Like, I was in Silicon Valley 6 years ago, and I remember that at the time, computer vision, for instance, it was something super complex. It was the most complex thing you could do. I showed you like 20 minutes ago how you can just buy that technology today for a few cents. So technology is becoming a commodity. No company, no traditional company today is going to win because they have a better neural network or because they have a better technology. They're going to win because they have the best use cases. And who is the person that can find the best use cases? A data scientist? No, it's going to be a business person. But you need to have some enlightened business person, someone who has the vision to trying to find these intersections between technology and business. That's the most important thing. So you need to work on that, again, operational understanding of AI, but also having the right vision to find, again, this very important and strong business cases.
Okay, I really appreciate your answers and all the lecture. And people are asking me if you could share again your discount.
Of course.
Yes, just to someone to copy
For the
that.
book?
Yes, yes, the book and the course. Yes, just to people
This
can.
If you can't find it, you can just I don't know, write me an email at gianluca@ai-academy.com. And I'll take a screenshot now, take a picture, or looking again on YouTube, and you can find this. If you have any problem, this is my email. I'm gonna make it very big now, so you can read it. So
I don't think you are sharing your screen, yes, because I'm not.
I just closed the sharing screen.
Okay.
Then you need to share it again, Gianluca, if you want.
Okay, but if you have problems, I mean, you can just reach out to me via email. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Gianluca. It was
you,
a pleasure to
Thank you very much.
having you here. Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. To continue the session, I will invite now Marco Lauria to invite our next guest. Okay, Marco Lauria, the audience is yours.
Thank you, Diet. It's a very interesting subject, and in fact, in one of the committees, we are writing an ebook that covering is completely aligned with many of the topics that he mentioned. Yeah. The importance of starting with something, with doing a prototype, the challenge of finding someone who has both skills, the technical skills and the business skills, and the importance in evolve to this position for those who have the business skills. So was very, and the importance of use case. We are actually trying to do an inventory of use case in Brazil exactly for this reason. So it was very good to hear that, and in our mission of promoting artificial intelligence, that one of the challenge that we have. I'm going to share my screen to do some homework here before I pass it to the next speaker. Just 1 second. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Just a few topics here, as Diet already mentioned for some who were here before. I'm part of I2AI now, and we are inviting you to join us. Today we have more than 150 members who are part of the association. And the idea of the association, the mission is to connect the different entities. So professionals, entrepreneurs, students, the academy, investors, business companies, government and non-government organizations with the objective to foster the use of artificial intelligence in Brazil. That's really what we are trying to do here, and connecting these people for this objective. Here are a few of the things that we've been trying to do. Give voice, to have the broad diversity of people in AI, being very inclusive. help build and develop content in collaboration with all the entities that we talked about, but educational institutes and others. Help value and promote our associates, and we have groups where we do networking. As I mentioned, the Innovation Committee, it's one of them, but it's to help promote what our associates do and to participate in the public debates and consultation. We are happy that we are going to be part of the initiative, the Brazilian AI initiative with MCTIC, so we have a chance to contribute there. So if you want to know more, join us. There are several ways you can join and be part of this association. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our next speaker, Claudia Del Pozo from CMinds. Claudia, I just had a chance of watching your TED video this morning, and it was great to see your pitch. Ethics is one of the things that I've been pitching, and the importance of ethics in AI. And as we just mentioned, we want to show that AI is an important tool for Brazil and for Latin America, that we need to leverage that. We can't miss this opportunity. So without further ado, I would like to pass to you. Let me stop sharing the screen, and then you can introduce yourself. Claudia, welcome to the event.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the invitation. Bom dia, eu sou Claudia Del Pozo, e não vou falar português, because that's as far as my Portuguese gets me, unfortunately. I will be giving this presentation in English, and I believe that we already have the live translation going. So let me just share my screen. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about how AI is being used as a tool for change in Latin America. So a lot of the time, just let me try to get that in full screen. Let's presentar. There we go. So a lot of the times we hear of a lot of use cases of how AI is changing the game in different places. But I think that the use cases in Latin America stay a little bit more within their own communities within each country. So I think today is a great opportunity to talk about how AI can be used as a tool for change for all the challenges that our region is facing. So I'm Claudia Del Pozo. I'm Director of Resilience at CMinds. CMinds is a Mexican think and do tank run by women, where we seek to promote social and economic development by having projects, by making public policy recommendations, and kind of just raising awareness about the intersection between the use of new technologies and the social impact that it can have. So that's probably what you saw in my TED Talk this morning, where I was talking about, for example, the privacy risks that that the use of technology could entail. So I just want to start by highlighting some of the risks, some of the challenges that our region as a whole is facing. So, Latin America is a region with a lot of inequality. There's a big challenge of unemployment, which, well, that is maybe not only Latin America. Corruption and fraud, and access to basic services can be quite challenging here because of the diversity of landscapes that we have and how vast the region is. So these are kind of the main challenges that I want to address today by giving you insight into what is happening in Latin America to solve these, before kind of talking about the challenges that AI can bring when we're trying to use it in a right way, and how the right way should be. So artificial intelligence is estimated to increase GDP in Latin America by 5% by 2030. And probably all of the Latin Americans in this talk have seen that figure and have gotten really excited by it. But I kind of look at it and I say, okay, but how are we going to do that? That's not just going to happen. It's going to have to be something intentional. And more than that, how can we make sure that economic change really trickles down to some social change, some social benefits, a region that is fairer, that has more and better public services with better access? I mean, globalization has been one of the global game-changing forces that are shaping our world. And it's left a lot of people out, even though as a whole it's been beneficial. How can we make sure that artificial intelligence, which is considered to be another one of these game-changing forces, make sure that that doesn't happen again, that this time we're moving towards a more inclusive future? And I think that a lot of these use cases that I'm going to present today are part of the response, are part of an intentional design to move towards a better future. So for instance, I think everybody knows that one of our biggest challenges in Latin America is corruption and fraud. And just yesterday, I was giving a talk with an organization in Peru, an amazing organization called DS4B. And we were talking about how AI could be an ally in these difficult times that the country is going through and the political crisis they're going through. How can they have more, how can they demand more from the people in power? So I want to present these two cases that I talked about yesterday. So one of them is the Plataforma Digital Nacional, the national digital platform in Mexico, which is an online platform that's being developed. So this is a huge ongoing effort by the government to collect as much open data as possible and make it accessible to citizens in a way that allows them to see, for instance, how different government transactions are going, different government purchases, very different ways of being able to kind of ourselves as people survey what is going on in the government and be able to kind of lift our hand if we see something that looks a little suspicious. And I think that's what's quite interesting about all of these tools that we're going to talk about and the digital world, is that suddenly we can be in a closer space, the digital space, with our governments, requesting more from them. And the governments can also work with us to create better services, which we'll get to in a bit. I also wanted to highlight, well, these two cases are from Mexico. Bionet, which is an online platform that uses artificial intelligence and blockchain to make sure that there is no fraud in online purchases. So that's a company that's been in Mexico for quite a while now, and that's growing really well. So these are just some of the cases that we can see how the country is waking up to use these new technologies, which I want to insist, artificial intelligence isn't an objective. It's just a tool. It's a new tool that we have in our big toolbox to keep on doing what we've been doing, and in some cases achieve better results. So here are some of the cases of corruption. I also want to talk a little bit about inclusion. So the region is very diverse. I think one of the good things of the region in terms of moving forward to a more digitalized world, yes, taking into account all the challenges that includes, is that most of the countries speak the same language, or we can understand each other in the case of Brazil. But there's also a huge part of the population that speaks indigenous languages. So what happens with those people? How can we really promote an inclusive region? How can we promote democracy in the region if we're not inclusive? So I want to talk about these two cases, one of them in Peru and one in Ecuador. The one in Peru, their role, what they want to do is protect native languages. And right now, actually, if you speak Quechua, I invite you to go to their website. They're looking for recordings of people speaking Quechua so that they can create a live translator, and in that way be able to include the population that only speaks Quechua and not Spanish into more aspects of society, more aspects of decision making, and even reaching participation in policy, citizen participation. And Speaklies is another really impressive use case in Ecuador, where just with an app on your phone, you can film someone speaking in sign language, and your phone will translate that for you into Spanish. I think they might have other languages available, but I think that's a great way of starting to include more people in what's happening in Latin America, and avoid the mistakes of moving forward with just one part of the population. A lot of the benefits that we're seeing from globalization, from the use of artificial intelligence for different systems, they often leave out part of the population. So I think it's really important to promote these sort of projects. And I'm really happy that Peru and Ecuador, and probably a lot of other countries that I just haven't found out about, are doing these kind of projects. Also wanted to talk about the topic of employment and education. A lot of interesting things going on in AI in this field in the entire world, and I want to highlight one really impressive program in Mexico. Saif, if you're listening to this talk, great job with this program, being led by Saif Savage in one of the main universities of the region, where they've created an online system to train migrants and workers to train them, to kind of retrain them for these skills that will be needed in the future and the skills that are needed right now in the industry to facilitate their placement and their inclusion into society, via a formal job. So that's just something really, really awesome going on here in Mexico. In Paraguay, they've kind of done what we all dream of, right? A national platform where you'd be able to look for any job, where all job vacancies would be on this platform. And you simply apply with your profile, and through AI models, it determines where you're a best fit, recommends you, and then you move forward with however the process is going. And this case might make you think of another case that didn't go so well in the US, which I'll mention in a bit, talking about the risks of using AI in certain situations. And then there's the case of the adaptive mathematics platform, PAM, in Uruguay, where they're helping children. It's kind of like an after classes tutor to help using AI to identify where children are struggling to understand, what topics they're struggling to understand, but also in what way each child learns. So if they're more of a visual learner, the platform can adapt and teach them in that way. If they're, depending on their learning styles, the platform adapts to make sure that they're keeping up with the level that they should be at. Moving on for health. So health, I think probably everyone knows a use case of AI for health. It's one of the most common applications of artificial intelligence for impact across the world. Here are a few examples going on in Latin America. So INIMA is a system developed by Mexican engineers. It's just a little device that uses AI models to detect common diseases that you may have. So for instance, it could detect diabetes through your blood. And that's a device that can be easily used anywhere. And that's one of the challenges of access to basic services in Latin America, is the number of remote areas that just don't have access to a proper clinic, a proper hospital, who need to go to the next big city and just don't have these services that we tend to have around our houses and don't need to go very far to get. And that's also the challenge that Portal Telemedicina, which is a Brazilian case, looks to solve. So Portal Telemedicina understands that there are a lot of clinics across Brazil that offer some services, but cannot offer the breadth of services, of health services that a hospital might offer, that a bigger hospital might offer, simply because they don't have the expertise, the capacity, the machines, etc. So Portal Telemedicina connects with these different clinics or smaller hospitals to complement their service offering. And the way they use AI is quite interesting. It's not only to help with the diagnostics of certain diseases, for example, checking x-rays, or I just put an image there to give an example, but also in the sense of how can they're receiving loads of data from clinics around the country every day. How can they prioritize which cases to check first? That's where AI comes in. AI will check all the incoming data and detect potential serious diseases so that Portal Telemedicina can prioritize the treatment of that person and the response to the clinic saying, okay, this is what you need to do in the case of this person. I think that's a brilliant project. I know that they've been very successful and they're growing quite a bit across Latin America. Of course, if we're talking about health nowadays, we're going to talk about coronavirus. And in fact, in Mexico, CMinds is launching a project that we just got funding for from Google called Talaria. The idea of Talaria is to help with the different testing processes that go on to detect coronavirus cases and and trials to treat them. So the way that the Laria works is that it's going to help patients, it's going to help streamline operations, help patients via chatbots feel more involved and kind of participate in a more efficient way in the entire process. And finally, I love this case in Colombia. It's called Notco. And the idea behind Notco is how can we create replacement food that is more nutritive, that has more nutrients than regular food. For example, how can we create plant-based meat? How can we create new foods that would help us get the vitamins that we need? So what Notco does is it has kind of like an AI chef. So an artificial intelligence model that concocts new recipes, new products, using what we already have, what nature already gives us to create new food for all of us. And one of their most successful products has been not mayo. So if any of you in this talk are from Colombia and you've seen it, that's exciting. I'd love to try it. It's simply mayo, and apparently it tastes exactly like mayo, but it's made completely from plant-based ingredients. So a lot of the time when we present these use cases, people are quite excited by them, but their reaction is kind of, okay, that's awesome, but all of these use cases are coming from the industry, they're coming from civil society, they're coming from academia. Why is government not keeping pace? And that's one of the questions that I received in one of my talks yesterday that I gave in Peru, like I mentioned, where people are quite frustrated with the lack of government response. And they said, why am I not seeing changes from the government, which is where I feel like they're needed the most? And just last week, I came across this image in an article from the Long Now Foundation. If you don't know it, they just published about the most interesting topics that you can imagine. I couldn't give you an example. Well, for example, how civilization works. And so when you think about AI applications, I think it comes in handy to use this, I don't know how to call it, like a diagram of how civilization moves forward. So, you know, some elements, so that first layer, fashion, I think it's better understood as with the word trend. So we have a lot of trends that come and go in our society and that don't really have any impact. If the trend, you know, hits hard, maybe the industry will follow up and offer services. And that's the case in artificial intelligence. You know, it started as a trend, the industry followed up very quickly. Then little by little, infrastructure starts to follow. So right now, if you look across Latin America, there's a race. All countries are trying to be the first to implement a 5G network. So infrastructure moves a little slower, but it's coming to support that trend that looks like it's something a little more long-lasting than, I don't know, Tamagotchis, for instance, that just came and went. And then government is a more central layer of our civilization. It's a layer that turns a lot more slowly, that's a lot more careful. And that's why these changes in government, we can become quite impatient with, but the way government works and the way our society works, government cannot adapt in just a click to these big changes. Only when they become really deep-rooted into our society will government start to attend them. And by attend, I mean use technology, because artificial intelligence is a huge opportunity for government to become more efficient, but also see what it means that suddenly as a society, we have so many applications of artificial intelligence. And here I'm talking more oversight and possibly regulations. So this is, for me, this is a fascinating diagram that I invite you to read the article about it. You can find it on the Long Now Foundation. And yeah, I think that with government, we need to have patience. But that doesn't mean that nothing is happening. Governments across Latin America have already started to explore how they can use artificial intelligence to provide us with better services. Let me just go to the next slide here. So here are the four last cases that I'm going to be presenting today before delving deeper into topics like challenges but also opportunities, for more opportunities for AI in Latin America. So there's a case in Argentina called Prometea, where the government has adopted artificial intelligence models inside its own processes to make processes more efficient. In this case, It would be for gender-based violence accusations or reports. So you can use a platform online to make those reports, to file those reports. And what used to take about a week or months can now be done in a matter of hours or day, and you can get a response to your request, to your complaint, very faster, in a faster way. And I think that's where we're going with government, is adopting AI within their processes simply to become more efficient. Because as we know, bureaucracy is a bit of a plague in government. And I think AI is a tool that can make it a little more easier to navigate. I think it's a tool that can make it easier to navigate for us citizens, but also for government officials who also know about the bureaucracy plague. Another case is CEDO in Mexico. And CEDO is a program developed by academia, but it's a program in collaboration with the government. So the idea of CEDO is to analyze the news in Yucatan to understand what is happening in the region, what is the impact of climate change, and how are fishermen reacting, fishing being a key economic element of the region of Yucatan. And based on that, the systems can create public policy recommendations for the Yucatan government to protect that key economic area. And that's what CEDO does, and it's been in action for a few years now in Mexico. Now I'd like to move on to a case that maybe some of you have heard about, the case of CISBEN in Colombia. It's a huge experiment that is going on. And it's very controversial in the sense that some organizations have flagged it as have put a red flag on it, saying this is not how we should do things. But let me tell you a little bit more about that case. So CISBEN is a government program that uses artificial intelligence to optimize the distribution of social benefits in Colombia. And what's been happening is that by automating this process and by making it digital, suddenly we're allowed more transparency into how the decisions are made. And having that transparency in turn allows people to come and, well, see what's happening and criticize if they don't agree. And I'm not saying it's being done well. I'm not saying it's not being done well. What I'm saying is it's interesting that suddenly we have this opportunity to have a say on how our government is using its resources to help different parts of the community. And one of the organizations that has been most vocal about it, about not liking how it's done, well, I think that, yes, maybe there's ways it can improve, but if you don't have this transparency that's allowed by the digital world, how else can we have a look inside of what is happening? How else can we have a say as citizens, as civil society, into how our government is working? So whether it's being done well or not is not so much what I want to address right now. I just want to leave you with this, this idea that automation also implies a certain degree of transparency, or at least it should, which we can touch upon more in just a minute. And the very last case I'll be presenting is the case of FAIR Jalisco, FAIRLAC. FAIRLAC is a program that was co-designed by CMinds and the Inter-American Development Bank to make Latin America a more equal region. To create, and the way we're doing that is creating hubs. So there's a hub in Costa Rica, there's a hub in Uruguay, there's a hub in Colombia, and one in Mexico, and they'll be opening a lot more soon. And CMinds is involved in the one in Jalisco, which is probably the most innovative city in Mexico. Sorry, Mexico City. If I am from Mexico, well, I'm talking from Mexico City right now, and I think we have to admit that Guadalajara in Jalisco is very innovative. And what we're doing there is working with the government, the Inter-American Development Bank, and one of the main universities to see how we can help the government address their priorities, which in the state of Jalisco have been defined as health, with the big challenge that Mexico faces in terms of diabetes, security, and education. So if we focus on health, we've been working with hospitals to try to acquire as much data as possible from different sources, of course, from the government, but also, like I said, hospitals, clinics, etc., to have a good database, from then we can extract, kind of understand different trends using AI models, and again, create public policy recommendations that are really tied down to what is happening in Jalisco, in the state of Jalisco. It's not based on observations that could be right or wrong. This is data-based evidence to make better decisions. And this is a model that we're trying to promote more and more across Latin America, so that government priorities can be attended in a better way, and where collaboration is key. And I think moving forward, not just in Latin America, but in everywhere, collaboration is going to be key, because the government is no longer the only entity that has information about us. It is no longer let's say the world has become so complex, especially with the advent of new technologies like artificial intelligence, that decisions need to be made in a more collaborative way, where people can bring different perspectives. And when we talk about Latin America and artificial intelligence, there's often maybe a lack of understanding of exactly where the region stands in terms of AI adoption, in terms of its use in the government, academia, the entrepreneurship ecosystem, etc. So earlier this year from CMinds, we worked on a report with the Inter-American Development Bank to map exactly what was going on. For me, this was a really exciting report where we'd be able to kind of showcase what's been going on over here. And it is also through this report that we found out about all of these exciting use cases that I presented. So if we wanted to make a ranking of who's doing great in Latin America in terms of AI for social good, which you can see what that means exactly in our report, we'd list Uruguay, Chile, Brazil, Argentina, and Costa Rica as the top 5 countries in terms of AI for social good, in terms of how the government is doing. You know, does it have a digital strategy? Does it have an open data platform focusing on the government, especially, you know, does it have an AI strategy? And in this next slide, I put a few ticks so you can see who has. So it's not only who has, but it's also who is very much on their way to having national AI strategy. And in fact, Mexico published theirs just a few months ago. Time is going by a little bit strangely in the pandemic. It's a few months. So really, Latin America is ready to embrace the AI revolution, and is more ready to embrace it. It's actually doing it with all the use cases that I've shown you to respond to the main challenges in the region. And I think that's something really exciting that's going on in Latin America, and that we're not talking about enough outside of Latin America. Now, that being said, something that needs to be talked about a little bit more inside Latin America are the risks that adopting AI implies. So here's a diagram that I copied from a report from the Inter-American Development Bank on the different kind of risks, ethical risks at least, that artificial intelligence adoption can imply. So there's risks in generating a systemic impact. I mean, obviously all of these use cases are trying to generate positive social change, but if AI is not used responsibly, that can quickly backfire, and we can end up generating even more inequality in a region that is already quite unequal. And that is definitely not what any of us want here. And so this conversation around responsible AI has been around for a while now, but there aren't really very clear mechanisms and how exactly that would work. And I want to talk to you a little bit about what's going on in the world, why responsible AI is such an important topic. So what happens when we use AI, but we don't, we're not aware of the risks that it could generate, and we don't purposely, intentionally try to develop and use these AI models in a responsible way. I think you've all heard probably about this story where Amazon automated its hiring process with artificial intelligence, and the tool ended up completely biased against women due to the historic data that Amazon had. So I'm not going to go into detail about this topic, but if you haven't read about this case, I think it's quite important to look it up, just to have an idea of what could go wrong when trying to do something right with AI. And not only are women being discriminated, but in the US, there's been huge challenges about AI sending people to jail and getting it wrong. And of course, in these cases, a lot of the times, like in the Amazon case, right? So it was women who ended up getting hurt, let's say, by this non-responsible use of AI. A lot of African American communities are also being hurt by non-responsible use of AI in the United States. The automation of systems in the of processes in the American justice system is hurting a lot of African American people and communities who end up being convicted, being monitored when they wouldn't really require it, when they hadn't really done anything to deserve it, other than be part of this African American community that has been marginalized for years. And if you want to read more about these challenges, I invite you to read or listen to Joy Bolamwini, who created the Algorithmic Justice League. And their goal is to create more awareness around the responsible use of AI and how we can protect marginalized communities. So while in the US, these communities might be the African American ones, in Latin America, that could very easily be the indigenous communities. How are we making sure that our algorithms are not biased against them and that we are truly moving towards a more inclusive future? So yes, a more inclusive future does include, for example, the tools that I showed you, for example, to make a translating tool to Quechua, to understand sign language, etc. But it's not just about that. It's also about an intentional design for inclusivity in our algorithmic, in our artificial intelligence systems. I think that's something really important. That 5% economic growth in Latin America is not just going to happen. We need to boost it. We need to make it happen. And more than that, we need to make sure that that 5% doesn't just help the top percentile of the population, but really brings benefits for everyone, that it's democratized. So I just want to end with a few examples of what's being done in Latin America in terms of these challenges. One of the main one being transparency. How can we really if we can really understand how an AI system is making its decision, then we, as the developers of the solution, can see where there might be mistakes and how the results might be excluding certain people. We, as the community, can have a look and decide if it's being done responsibly or not. I think transparency is a key term. And we've been talking about government transparency for a while. When we talk about AI, algorithmic transparency in companies, it gets a little more scary because there's this whole conversation about, I'm not going to open my code. I mean, this is industrial secrets, but that's not what transparency has to be. There's a lot of investigation around this. Transparency can be a lot more simple, but what is certain is that transparency and the other key pillars of AI ethics are no longer a CSR topic. They're necessary. Recently, I read in Forbes that over 90% of companies around the world are having problems with their AI because of a lack of focus on an ethical use. Those are problems that are going to affect their ability to grow, their ability to get investment, their ability to get the best AI talent in the world, which we know there's not a lot of, and you already have to kind of fight to get it. So why kind of put yourself in this challenge where you might fall into an ethical problem and just kind of ruin the reputation of your company? We've seen it happen time and again, and it's time for companies to realize that these aren't just little accidents that may happen, but they're an intrinsic part of using artificial intelligence, and that risk mitigation strategies have to be put into place if we're talking about using artificial intelligence, especially if they're going to have a high impact on our society. And on this topic, wrapping up, so I just found this article from, well, back in September, where Amsterdam, along with Helsinki, is obligating the government to open up on the use of algorithms for public services. And I think that's just awesome that citizens can just connect to an online portal and understand exactly what, sorry, I can take a drink of water. this is what happens. I talk for too long, I get too excited, and then I just have no voice anymore for the rest of the day. So I think that's really exciting that as a citizen, you could go online and see, what data comes into place when deciding, I don't know, who gets government subsidies for electricity, for water. I think that that's our opportunity to really exercise democracy and have a say about how the government is working. Is it fair? Is it not? According to who? At least have a conversation and be in the know. And what's important here is that transparency be accompanied by a term called explainability, which used to be referred to as understandability. And it's about, okay, great, you could be as transparent as you want. How about you say you're super transparent and you open your code and you show it to me. I will have no idea what's happening. I'm not a technical person. Those are just numbers to me. So it's important to also translate that into something that your users will understand, into something that Claudia will understand as a non-technical person. And that's what explainability is about. And in Latin America, so far, there are conversations about this in Mexico, and I just found out yesterday in Colombia as well. So what we're doing in Mexico, we're collaborating with Facebook, the Inter-American Development Bank, and the Mexican data privacy regulator called I2AI to try to explore what transparency and explainability of AI systems could look like in companies. So we're going to have a 6-month program with 14 Mexican companies where we're going to try to implement a guide that we're creating right now with the different partners and different experts as well that we've reached out to in the region on how to do transparency and explainability in your company. Experts will be accompanying these companies during 6 months to implement that. And based on those learnings, we're going to create public policy recommendations for I2AI, the Mexican regulators, but also for all similar regulators in Latin America, so that this exercise can be of benefit to the entire region on, well, what would it look like if we wanted to create a framework around the transparent and explainable use of artificial intelligence. I think that's one of the main benefits of Latin America. That's one of the main opportunities that we have as a region, is that most of the region speaks Spanish, most of the region understands Spanish. So we're very lucky in that sense that it's relatively easy to exchange information. The region is quite united, it faces the same challenges. So instead of doing parallel exercises where we both find out the same things in different countries, we're able to work together as a region to make the most of the AI revolution, mitigate the risks, help our societies become more fair, less unequal. And that's something that we need to enjoy a little more and to make more efforts to make the most of. I think the region is an amazing testing ground for AI for good solutions. As you've seen, there are a lot that are being developed here. And also one of the most exciting things about artificial intelligence in Latin America is that we have a young population that is very problem-solving oriented, very creative. I'm actually French. And so when I moved to Mexico, one of the things I realized is that it's very different to France in the sense that in France, if we're facing a challenge, we are going to turn to our government to say, hey, this is happening. We need a solution. What are you going to do about it? In Latin America, for unfortunate reasons, that isn't always the case. More and more, we are working with governments to solve challenges, but Latin America is also a huge group of people who are just willing to say, hey, well, there's a problem, who's going to solve it? If not me, who? I'm just going to create it. And a lot of the solutions I've shown you, we've interviewed them for different projects that we're doing. And they're just a group of people who came together and saw a problem and said, well, let's solve it. And how shall we solve it? Artificial intelligence, let's look into it. How can we use it? And I think that's something that's quite unique to this region, and that's going to really allow artificial intelligence to make a difference, again, if it's used responsibly. And one of the most exciting things I've read about Latin America and artificial intelligence was an article by the World Economic Forum explaining that Latin America had a huge competitive advantage when it came to this new AI and kind of automation era, where yes, automation is going to it's going to have a big impact, both positive and negative. It's a game changer. And a lot of the skills that will be automated are the repetitive ones. They're automatable, let's say. And the ones that aren't, the ones that are purely human, are skills like creativity, problem solving, being able to create a narrative, storytelling, leadership. And those skills aren't going anywhere anytime soon. And Latin America excels in those skills. Latin America is amazing at soft skills. And that's going to be a huge competitive edge, where I would say we're the region in the world with some of the best creativity, leadership, all of these soft skills that robots cannot replace. And that's going to give us, it's giving us a huge advantage when it comes to the future. And so I just kind of want to applaud everything that's going on in the region, and thank I2AI for this space to talk about all of this. And I'm open to any questions. Thank you.
Great, Claudia. Thank you for the pitch. It was good to see this use case and also the opportunity in Latin America. I think it gives us a good perspective of where we can go. I've also used Joy's video that you mentioned, the TED, about fighting bias on algorithms a few times in my presentations. I have a few questions here, Claudia, but before, maybe I wanted to touch on the point on the 5% that we mentioned, because some time ago I did an exercise on how Europe and the United States actually benefit from the Industrial Revolution, in showing the dangers that may represent if you stay behind on this. And we can't let this happen with this new revolution on artificial intelligence. And I think we need to engage the society on this discussion. And even if you're able to get 5%, when you see what is being forecasted for United States, for China, who are the two main players on this area, and even Europe, this would mean that even if you can get the 5%, we would be way behind, meaning we would be smaller than what they are growing, and probably would mean accelerated inequalities that we have. So it's good to see the 5. And I think we have to show we can do much more than the 5. We have to do, because it's the opportunity that we have to grow, and many things the government needs to do. So good to see your perspective on this.
Thank you. Yeah, definitely. Other countries might be growing faster, but I think that one of the challenges in Latin America is also simply that we might be lagging behind in certain elements, just simply digitalization, etc. So we just kind of need to catch up, and maybe there's some elements that we can leapfrog. And I think where Latin America is really going to shine is in the application of AI for social impact.
Yeah, this is good. I have a few questions here. One you mentioned is how to develop projects collaboratively, and if there is some initiative on this. And you mentioned most of the countries speak Spanish. We are the only one who speaks Portuguese here, but it's pretty close. And the challenges are very similar. How can we collaborate? And like we can participate with I2AI. We have an ethics group that is ethics and privacy group. We are working with the government. How can we better collaborate among us in Latin America?
I think that's something that we need to work on more. So one of the first steps we took to make that possible, I think the Inter-American Development Bank is going to be a key actor there. So there's two things, right? One of the main things are events like this, where people can talk about what they're doing, what other organizations are doing, kind of get together and know each other, and hopefully in the future we can do that in person again. But the Inter-American Bank, with their FAIRLAC initiative, I think is quite an impressive stride forward. So the idea is to have all of these hubs that I mentioned, and all of those hubs would kind of feed each other the information that they have. So that's one very collaborative mechanism that we're putting into place. And then directly from CMinds, again with the IDB, we worked on this report where we mapped the state of AI for good in 12 Latin American and Caribbean countries and found case studies. And for us, finding case studies was key, because a lot of people want to do something, but don't know where to start. Or maybe a lot of people are working in AI and health, and they'd kind of like to have an idea of what else is out there. So just having access to a list of use cases that are going on in Latin America, I think, and being able to reach out to them and talk and exchange about what challenges they've seen, how they've overcome them, I think that's really helpful. And all of these use cases are actually available on, I'll put the link in the chat so that anyone can find it, on an observatory that's on the IDB's Fairlac website.
Yeah, no, this is pretty good. I think we need to map this use case.
Exactly.
There are several other questions here. Let me bring them to you. One was a powerful weapon for us to evolve in Latin America countries is through education. How do you see the artificial intelligence could help in a broad way?
So there's two things, right? There's education to create more artificial intelligence talent. And in our research, we found that more and more topics related to artificial intelligence, like data science, are being taught in universities, are being offered as majors or master degrees. So that's going in the right way. There's also kind of alternative education platforms where you can learn about it. And another thing is how we can use AI to help education improve. So like I mentioned, there's a case in Latin America, in Uruguay, called PAM, where the idea is to help children with any challenges they're having with math. There's also another solution, I can't remember the name right now, where it's an artificial intelligence system that can be adopted by a university to improve their overall performance, identify good professors or professors that aren't performing so well. There's a lot of solutions that AI is offering, and just digitalization as a whole. For example, all of these massive online courses that are available through platforms like Coursera, like edX, that's something that's new. Those are new tools that this digitalization era is giving us. So I think there's a lot to be done in education and a lot being done.
Great, Claudia. A few more, and Coursera, I've done a lot of classes and recommend some. There are some pretty goods on this subject there. A few questions. One, you touched briefly. Do you know if in LA there are any intergovernmental initiatives to collaborate and create common lines for the development of these technologies in countries of the region, like cross initiatives, intergovernmental initiatives?
In LA?
In LA?
Oh, Latin America, right. I was thinking,
yeah.
for some reason I thought Los Angeles.
No, not Los Angeles here, Latin America.
So unfortunately, there's not really any Latin American initiatives in that sense. There are global ones, and through CMinds, we're pushing for more and more representation of Latin America there. So for example, we founded the IEEE, which is the main standards organization in the world. We created a Latin America chapter to be able to bring what they're doing, give it more visibility in Latin America, make sure Latin America is participating there. Also, the UNESCO recently put forth some artificial intelligence recommendations focused on the ethical use, and we made sure that Latin America was represented there. In fact, our founder was part of that group of people. So I think, yes, there is a need for more regional cooperation on guidelines, etc. But there's also a need for Latin America to be more represented in international initiatives. We're often, in events, there's often a table about Latin America, but we don't need a table about Latin America. We need Latin America to be at the table with everybody else. And I think, given your smile, I think you completely understand what I'm going for.
Yeah, we need to be part of this world.
Exactly.
Claudia, do you believe that the government leadership in Latin are in the same pace with the other nations in the middle tier for the adoption of the AI, or are we lagging behind? What is your point on this one?
I think it really depends on the government. I think Uruguay is doing an amazing job. Also depends on the administration. The previous administration in Mexico was moving forward very fast with an AI strategy, with AI exercises. This administration is a little bit more slow in those topics. So, of course, if you compare us to the European Union, we're lagging behind. But I think that one of the problems is also that we're also always talking about the negative aspects of Latin America and how we're lagging behind in certain things. But I think we're also, what would the opposite of that be? We're also better in other aspects. For example, in the use of AI for social impact, there are incredible use cases here. So yes, we might be lagging behind in certain aspects, but we're getting there our own way, and we're also leading in other topics. For example, Mexico was one of the first 10 countries in the world to have a national AI strategy, thanks to an effort put forth by CMinds and the British Embassy. So I wouldn't say we're lagging behind as a whole. It just kind of depends what you focus on.
Yeah, and I think you touched on a good point. Sometimes we're a bit shy, and we tend to highlight many of the problems and not the qualities. You mentioned many human qualities that we have, and I think this is going to be important on this next phase. So maybe we need to promote a little more of this.
A little more shameless self-promotion from Latin America.
Yeah. If we are a company, this is important, our public relations here. One last question, Claudia. How do you see the society in Latin America in regards to its awareness of AI? Do you think that the average citizen,
I don't know if you
kind of understand the transformation? How big is the transformation? I think it is related with what you mentioned. This may have a big impact. Do you think people realize what is the impact and are getting prepared for it?
I think yeah, there's a huge problem with awareness of exactly. I mean, we don't need everybody to know how to program artificial intelligence. We just kind of need people to be aware of this transition, of the benefits, but also the risks that AI can bring with it, simply to make sure that we're moving in a fair way. If you're not aware, for instance, of the bias challenges that artificial intelligence systems have, how could you say, hey, I want a human person to check the result that was given? For example, let's say I'm denied a credit by an organization who uses AI. First of all, I would need to know that they use AI. So that's one important thing. We should know how decisions are made, or even just if the decision involves AI. Then if I know that it does, if I don't know that there's this bias challenge, I might just say, well, I guess I just wasn't, I just didn't qualify. But if I know, I can say, okay, I'm a woman, maybe that came into place, maybe their system is biased. I would like a human to review this decision and confirm that indeed I'm not eligible, or there's been a mistake and I am. So yeah, I think there's definitely a lack of awareness, and events like these are very necessary to create that awareness among all of Latin America. I think there's also a role of government to make information more clear.
And I think even with the press, we have some work to do, because they tend to portray kind of the threats as being the exterminator, the super intelligence that we are far away, but not the bias, not the lack of transparency that I think are much more urgent problems that we have. So we kind of focus on long-term threats, but and inspired by the media, but not real things that are close problems that were important for people to be aware. So we're glad to see your pitch on ethics and these things.
Yeah, and everybody's read this, like, robots are coming to take our jobs, and maybe that's terribly poorly formulated. It's really not at all what's going to happen, but just telling you, okay, so this is happening, but what can you do? What can you do about it? How can you prepare? The press hasn't really been helpful in that sense.
Yeah, not focusing on the right problems don't help us to get prepared to these problems. And I think the retraining for the future jobs is one important point. Okay. Claudia, thank you very much for your pitch, exciting pitch. I hope we are able to join you on this initiative. As I mentioned, this is one of the topics that we as I2AI want to do as an association, is to promote the use of artificial intelligence. So count on us if we can help with this for Latin America. Thank you for being part of this. I will just share my screen for one last topic, what we have in the agenda for the rest of the week. Thanks, Claudia.
Muito obrigada. And thank you to Tiago and Giselle, who are also around there for the invitation and the coordination.
Obrigado, Claudia. It's been a long time. I'm not in Mexico. I used to go there every month, but
Really?
since I left IBM, it's been a while. It's been 2 years.
You'll have to come back after the pandemic one day.
Thank you. Thank you
so much. Bye.
Bye. Tim, just before we wrap up here, a few of the things we still have today, and on our last day tomorrow, we have workshops tonight. There are two slots for the workshops. The first start at 7:15 p.m. and then we have a second one 8:30 p.m. And you can pick up 3 topics for you to choose. So here you have 3 topics for 7:15. One is very related with what we talked. In fact, 2 of them, the data economy and the industry 4.0 here. And then we have 3 topics for 8:30. So you may pick any one of these 3 topics for the 2 slots. And then we finish the day, but the I2AI experience is not over. And we started the day tomorrow early for breakfast. You have another pitch from one company, from Global, from Gabriela here on the use of AI for company optimization here. So don't miss this one. 8 o'clock tomorrow. Then I'm going to be back here with an interview with Pedro Toledo from the Softex, talking about doing an overview of what is happening with the startups in Brazil and how they're using artificial intelligence. So we'll be here from 1 to 1:30 tomorrow. Then we have another 2 international presentations, international speakers like this one we just had. We're going to have Paul Santilli from HP talking about the effects of AI within a perspective disruptive environmental. And then after that, we are going to have Luiz O'Hara and Rodolfo talk about applications, strategy of quantitative trading in scalable data platforms. So 2 interesting topics for tomorrow afternoon. And then finally, we are closing the event. We are going to have we are going to have an award with the finalists for the I2AI awards. So we are going to have the final event at 6 p.m. and we close the event with Marcelo Taz talking us about a future with a lot of opportunities using artificial intelligence. So there is still some workshops tonight, and then there are great events for the whole day tomorrow, finishing with the awards and the final presentation from Marcelo Taz. It was a pleasure being here with you. Hope to see you tonight with the workshops. And I think with this, we can close the event. Thank you. Thank you very much.